Welcome to the Dowden Podcast. I'm your host, the official CRG, and today we are going to talk about concussions and the short-term and long-term effects. But before we get started, make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. That way you don't miss any weekly episodes and posts. You can find video of this episode strictly on YouTube, but the audio everywhere else. But the reason I want to talk about this today is because last week we just talked about the brain and how puberty affects men and women differently. And while I was doing my research, I came across a bunch of articles on concussions, and I wanted to shine light on the topic as a whole. So, concussions is a mild traumatic brain injury that affects normal brain function and occurs when the head receives a violent shake and or blow. And when this happens, it can lead to temporary or permanent cognitive symptoms. For example, some short-term effects of concussions can be headaches, nausea, blurred vision, confusion, memory loss, and even seizures, with many, many more side effects that may occur. And now, yes, they are short-term, but it is still contact to the brain and can still cause a lot of damage if repeated, leaving the individual thinking they're okay when they really aren't. And when it comes to short-term effects, they can last anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of days to even a couple of weeks. Just because you have a concussion and you experience, light, light hurts your eyes, or it gives you headaches, or you have a hard time sleeping, or maybe you even get increased depression, that may not be permanent. Concussions cause a lot of problems because when you get a concussion, your head basically bobbles around. Your brain bounces off your skull, it goes everywhere, and that can hit a lot of very specific and fragile points in your brain. But now that we've gone over some short-term effects, let's now talk about the long-term effects and why concussions are terrible for the human brain if repeated. So when you get a concussion, like I said before, your brain basically bounces around your head, and it can cause permanent damage based off the severity of the concussion if not treated properly. For example, some long-term effects of concussions can be vision problems, insomnia, mood swings, light and noise sensitivity, aggression, and even depression. And with an increase in research for concussions in contact sports, especially football, they've seen a huge increase in players who develop CTE when they get older, causing brain damage and can lead to dementia and eventually death. So concussions aren't anything to mess with. And if you do get one, make sure to go see a doctor and get checked out. Because if you don't, you could risk of getting permanent damage or even worse. But with that said, today's quote is by John Doherty. He once said, "A concussion is not a sprained ankle. A concussion affects academic performance, and getting a second concussion before you recovered from the first can have dire consequences." I appreciate you tuning in. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And this is the Dowden Podcast.